And now, a Buddy Check 13 reminder with News 13's Amy Hoyt.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to 13 Now. I'm News 13's Amy Hoyt, and we're coming to you live from our newsroom on Harrison Avenue in downtown Panama City. Today is your monthly Buddy Check reminder, where we remind you, ladies, to check for lumps in your breast and to get those mammograms, because early detection of breast cancer, as always, is key. You know, you hear it every month, and so this is your monthly reminder. We have another special guest today who is a breast cancer survivor coming up on 5 years post, and we invite you to help us welcome Serenity Anderson. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Good
Thank
to have you with us. You're a longtime Bay County resident, Highland Park Elementary School teacher, which we've had a couple of folks from your school come in and do these interviews with us, so we appreciate you coming out today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to share my journey and help others.
Well, let's start at the beginning. You had told me you found the lump, and you were young, late 30s, and so you really hadn't hit that 40-year-old mark yet to get a mammogram. So
Correct.
Tell us how you found the lump.
Sure. So I originally found the lump. I was turning 40, about that time, start the mammogram process, but I found a small pea-sized lump. And I thought, well, could be hormonal things going on. We'll just kind of watch it and see. That was on a weekend. And then about 3 days later, I checked again, and it had grown in size and kind of set some alarms off. And thought, okay, we need to get this checked because it didn't get smaller, didn't go away. So definitely thought that it could be something. And so I scheduled an appointment right away, got in with my gynecologist, told her what I had seen or what I had felt. And they did a check and said, hey, we need to send you for a mammogram. So first mammogram was to find out what this lump was.
Now, just to go back just for a second, sure. Were you doing routine checks because you were you weren't kind of at that threshold of age where we remind women to do it. So, or was it accidental, like in the shower, you just felt something?
It really was accidental. I do have a family history of breast cancer. I had an aunt that passed away at a young age. And one of those things where I was young, had not had anybody else with breast cancer, but probably should have been checking more frequently and making that a routine thing. But I didn't. I just happened to check, felt something, and thought, okay, we need to make this, get this checked out, and we definitely need to make it a routine check.
Did you think it was breast cancer right away or no?
I didn't really. I mean, I can't say that it really crossed my mind immediately. I think just the lump itself kind of concerned me enough to where I was like, yeah, we need to check it. But cancer just did not cross my mind at that moment in time. I had a lot of things going on at the moment. My mother had just been diagnosed with leukemia, and just a lot of things were happening. So I was like, no, this is, just a lump. We're going to get it checked out. Everything's going to be fine.
Now, a few days later, though, when you feel it and it's larger, like it grew aggressively, did you start to think maybe?
I did. I immediately thought, okay, this was about the size of a pea a few days ago, and it was about the size of a dime just in a matter of days. And so that really, I think, is probably when cancer may have crossed my brain and like, okay, this could be something far more than just a little spot. So that's probably the turning point that when it crossed my mind.
All right, so you get to the doctor, and tell us what the process is. You stayed in Bay County for your treatment, correct?
I did everything Bay County, stayed local, and really just things went really, really fast for me. I know different people with different stories, but my journey just really kind of took off running fast, and things were happening so fast that I really didn't have a lot of time to process all the things that were happening. My diagnosis, or the lump, was found in July of 19. And by August, I had a mammogram. I had a biopsy. I had met with a surgeon. I'd had an MRI. And by the beginning of September, I had met with my oncologist here, and we went feet first into it. Started chemotherapy.
And that's to shrink the tumor before surgery, correct?
So they wanted to, the tumor was about 2.3 centimeters in size. And by the time they did the MRI, it had already gotten to about the 3 to 3.3 size, just within a matter of weeks. They were like, so we want to try and shrink it, see if we can, just rid it altogether before we go that direction. So we did the chemotherapy and hit the ground running in September with that. Did 6 aggressive rounds of chemo.
Do you know what kind of breast cancer it was?
I had it was called invasive ductal carcinoma.
Is that the most common?
It is. And they said that I was like a stage 2, but right on the verge of stage 3. So they said it was very aggressive, fast spreading. I was triple positive, so hormone fed. So a lot of factors played into it and kind of hitting the ground running and getting this done sooner rather than later.
Now, so you have the chemotherapy. It does shrink the lump, correct?
It does.
And you opt for a lumpectomy, right?
I did. I met with the surgeon, local surgeon here, and we had some lengthy discussions about, what to do. And he felt very positive in the fact that, the chemotherapy had done its job. So he said, let's do the lumpectomy. So we did that first. And then my post-op appointment from surgery. We came back and met, and he said, I wish I had better news for you, but we did what we could, but we didn't get clear margins. And the way he explained it, it was kind of like a Swiss cheese honeycomb effect inside of my breast tissue, where there were non-invasive and invasive positive cancer cells throughout the breast tissue. So at that point, we just kind of took hold of, okay, what do we do now? Another surgery.
And you had Dr. George Reese.
I did.
Who has since retired.
I did. He was my surgeon.
He's the best.
He was amazing. He, told me right off the cuff, like, this is what I recommend. I'll do what you want to do. This is, your journey, but this is what I recommend. And he recommended, when we decided to do the mastectomy, I was almost like at that point of just take them both, just be done. My age, I was not childbearing age anymore. I was just at whatever I had to do, and he was like, you're still young. Just because you have cancer in one breast doesn't necessarily mean that you have cancer or will have cancer in the other breast. So we just did the one, and it was perfect. It was just what we needed. And out of the 695 cc's of tissue that he took out, he said it was significantly filled with positive cancer cells.
Wow.
So it really was the absolute best decision that we could have made.
So you had chemo, you had a lumpectomy, then you had the single mastectomy.
Correct.
And then not more chemo though, because you're done.
No, and they didn't, because I went through with the mastectomy piece, they decided I didn't need to do the radiation. So, and that was originally on the regimen for me to do. But since we ended up with the mastectomy, I didn't have to do the radiation. So after the mastectomy, it was really just reconstruction from that point forward. Which happened to hit during the midst of COVID. So everything kind of got shut down. So it took a little bit longer for me to go through that reconstruction process, because, at that point with the cancer being removed, it was more of a elective surgery. So I had to wait a little bit for that, but then got the ball rolling once everything opened back up and did reconstruction.
How are you feeling through all this? Did the chemo make you sick? Did you lose your hair?
I did lose my hair. I would say it was, at first, I was really upset about it, but as it started to fall out, I think around round 2, so I'd been about, 42 days in, it really started falling out, and I just said, you know what, cancer's not going to control me, I'm going to control this. And so I called a dear friend of mine and said, hey, and she was on standby. She knew that if we ended up going this route, that I was going to want to take control. And so I called her and I said, hey, it's falling out. I'm not letting cancer take this from me. I'm going to take it. So went to her place and shaved my head and got the ball rolling and said, okay, I'm in control of this. I choose. So I did. I lost my hair. I felt really good. You see in the movies and things where people get so terribly sick and lose tremendous amounts of weight and are very, very frail. I owe so much to my oncologist. He knew all the right things, sent me home with all the right medications, kept me just on schedule with things. my immediate family, my children, just everybody just poured into me. So I couldn't feel bad. I was tired. I was fatigued. I lived off strawberry milkshakes from Sonic.
Well,
But
that's not so bad.
no, and the oncologist said, whatever you eat, just eat. I just want you
Right.
eating. So I would say that I actually had a not so bad experience through chemo. I mean, you're running all that stuff through your body, but there were days where I couldn't do anything.
Were
But
you working through it?
I didn't. I took leave at the time. I said earlier, my mom had been diagnosed. I was helping her, with her treatments and things at the time. So it was just better for me.
While you were going through yours?
Yes, actually, yeah. She was diagnosed in 17, and so she was going through her stuff. Hurricane Michael hit. She was continuing her stuff, and then I got mine. So it was just everything that we had to do. Is almost there were times when we were in the same oncology office for our appointments at the same time, but for different reasons. But yeah, I couldn't really work. I just really had to focus on her and
Right.
focus on me.
So you had a whole lot going on just besides your own breast cancer.
I did.
Now, you mentioned the family history. You said an aunt
I did. I had an aunt on my father's side.
on your father's side.
did.
Do you have any sisters?
I do not. I have a brother.
Okay, so no sisters, and you have 2 young sons. You do not have, you don't have any daughters to worry
No.
about this continuing on.
No, we did the genetic testing for the BRCA gene, and I came back negative for that. So that was a big relief. And so that was one of the things that we had discussed. If I had the gene, then I definitely wanted to make sure that my kids were aware, because I know that there's the possibility
Right.
that even though you're a male, the possibilities are still there. So
Right. They get
luckily
breast cancer too.
Yeah,
It's not
so-
quite as common, obviously.
absolutely.
Tell me about your oncologist, Dr. Weber. We have interviewed him before, and he's great too.
I absolutely owe that man my life. One of the things he told me was when we decided on the chemo regimen, he was like, I'm doing this case study. Everything kind of mimics everything that you're going through right now. And I really want to, mimic what their regimen is if you're up to it. He said, but it's aggressive and it's going to hit hard. But the reoccurrence rate was very low with this treatment, and the survival rate was very high. So he was like, "Are you up for the challenge?" And I said, "You're the professional. I trust you 100%." And I did. His office staff, he would even call me on the weekend to make sure that I was okay. And just they were always proactive in everything and very informative through the process, and just took such good care of me throughout that whole time.
So you took medication post, correct? Pills?
I did. They gave me literally a regimen of things. They labeled them 1, 2, 3, 4. When you get home after your treatment, this is what you take. This is, if this doesn't work, then you take this one. Anything to combat the, sickness that follows and the fatigue that follows. And we just kept that going. Even if I didn't feel it, we just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I really think that was beneficial too, because it never allowed me to get so far down that it took a while to come back up. So we just stayed on a schedule and routine with it.
Now, while you were going through that, obviously your family had a support group, but your children were younger. If they're 20 and 15 now, we go back 5 years, they were 10 and 15. So they're still young. Did you tell the boys right away?
I didn't tell them initially when I found the lump, just because I didn't really know. But unfortunately, the day that I actually found out, I had one of my children in the car with me. I just picked him up from elementary school, and I was on my way to the high school to pick up. Actually, I had just gotten to the high school to pick up my older son, and the phone call came through. Connected to Bluetooth, the whole 9 yards. I was like, okay, I'm gonna step out of the car for just a minute, and so I did, and I got the news right then and there, picking them up. So went home, just kind of talked through it, figured out how I was going to address it, with them, and we decided that we would wait till we knew a little bit more, because at that point, all we knew was it was cancer. We didn't know much, so we waited until after we saw Dr. Reese. And got some results from the test where we could really tell them all the things to be able to answer all the questions.
So how do boys react though? I think it's a little different than if you had a teenage girl, maybe.
Maybe. I don't have girls, so I don't know. I think, at any point in time, your children regardless of being male or female, your mom. And when you get something like that, that kind of news. And on top of that, my mom had just gotten her diagnosis not too long before that. So they were dealing with her. And that she's like a second mom. That was mama. That was, like a second mom to them. So I think in some ways they were a little scared. They were a little worried, not knowing, here's this going on with our mama, and now here comes mom with her stuff. But we continued to pour into them and just tell them, every time there was something positive to relay to them, every time that the doctors, said my numbers were high, everything was doing good, we just poured that into them. We tried to stay as positive as we possibly could throughout the entire time. All the surgeries, all the things. They were there for it all.
Did you have any friends who had breast cancer at that point?
At that point, I didn't. I don't recall remembering anybody. I had acquaintances, through the school system. People all over the place, but didn't really know their journey or their particulars. Just like, oh, so and so just got diagnosed. So I didn't really know too many people. But since my journey, I've met so many people, and I've talked with so many people about their journey, people that have been through it, people that are going through it, or even people that have just recently been diagnosed. I've gotten texts and phone calls like, hey, can you talk to me about this? Or, what did you do when this happened? So I feel like it was, although it was a difficult journey to go on, I felt like there was a purpose, You
develop a bond too with other survivors, because as much as we want to help, we don't understand unless you go through it yourself.
Absolutely. There are a lot of ins and outs, and every case is different, for everybody. Everybody's journey is different. But just having someone to talk about and oh my gosh, did you lose your hair? Yes, I lost my hair. It's going to be okay. And sharing things. I shared my little beanie hats with a couple of friends and acquaintances that, were diagnosed after me. And they were just so appreciative. Just one less thing. I had people reach out to me and say, hey, my friend's sister just got diagnosed. I want to make her something. What are some of the things that you needed or wanted when you were going through your chemos, those types of things. And so just offering suggestions of ways that other family members can help, people in their family.
Now you're coming up on your 5-year mark, and 5 years, that's a big one.
It is.
So are you going back for another mammogram?
So I just had a mammogram May or June, and everything was clear, all good.
Okay.
I've continued to have good positive reports there. I do have a bone density scan coming up just because that's, part of the process.
For osteoporosis?
Yes. Well, the chemotherapy and the cancer and all that kind of stuff. And I have to take a medication that can tend to cause the bone density to be less. But so far I have not had any issues. So I go back for that at the end of the month. And then I believe sometime around August, maybe September, I will talk with Dr. Weber about a 5-year tissue test. And I guess I'll learn more about that when it comes. But basically, from what I understand, they go back and they test a vial of the tissue and see if the cancer cells are there or not, which will then determine whether or not I can come off this medication that I'm on. So.
You feel good now because you look good.
Oh, thanks. I feel great. I'm active. Lost a bunch of weight. Just really trying to stay healthy and live the life that I've been blessed with. I said, God gives his hardest battles to his toughest soldiers, and I just powered through it with my faith and my family and my friends. I couldn't have done it without all of them.
How big of a role did your faith play?
I would say a lot. Going through what I was going through with my mom at the time, it was difficult thinking, okay, I'm possibly going to lose my mom, and here I am, and what if my family lose us both? Right. I had to have faith. I had to know that every time that I was walking into Dr. Reese's office or Dr. Weber's office, I was going to have good news. I was going to have positive news. I was coming home to share something great, with my family and my friends. So I know that, there's power in prayer and power in numbers of people praying. So.
Well, you're definitely an inspiration, and a positive attitude shines through. What's your best advice for someone who might be recently diagnosed?
I would say maybe the very first thing is stay off the internet. That was one real big piece of advice that I would say Dr. Weber instilled in me. You can run yourself into a rabbit hole of all kinds of things, all kinds of stories that may or may not have a lot of facts behind it. So talk to someone who's been down that road. Talk to a medical professional before you just dive deep into that. Internet is just full of things that maybe just not good information.
Or probably might not be
Yes.
true.
Yes, that's
Or an
right.
exaggeration or something that feels like it reflects your case, but it's not.
It's not.
Yeah, and you'll start to worry and make everything just worse. I understand that. We hear that quite often.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate you coming out and sharing your story. I know you're getting ready to go back to school in just a few weeks. And what grade do you teach?
I teach first grade.
Oh,
Yes, I'm very excited, ready to get back into routine and schedule. I'm actually moving into a new building, so I'm excited about
Okay.
it's like a whole new world out there for me next year. So I'm super excited for that.
well, we're so glad to have met you, and we appreciate you sharing your story.
Absolutely. Anytime that someone needs something, feel free to reach out. That's what I'm here for.
Thank you. Well, Serenity Anderson, I just love your name. It's so pretty and it suits you. We appreciate you coming out.
Thanks.
And just as she said, check for those lumps. It doesn't matter your age, especially if you have a family history. Even if you don't, start getting into your late 30s, you can feel for yourself. And then, of course, get those mammograms. Starting at 40, always check with your doctor. We thank you for watching today. We'll see you next time.